Hi, and welcome to the Selling in the Motor Trade podcast in association with CarWow, the online car-changing destination. Together, we share tips and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your department, dealership, or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett, or some of you might already know me as Skippy. Firstly, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Well, I got to say, even in the car world, there's some stats I seen the other day which it didn't shock me. We're not, because we're electric vehicle family, but I want to run them past you and see how it compares in the van world. The first one is a car driver. It's only 3 times a year they have to charge away from home. So actually, the infrastructure that lots of people talk about, I think it's a bit of a red herring in the car world, because only 3 times a year, and I gotta say, we live in Cheshire. My wife goes up to see her mother in Edinburgh regularly. It is 3-4 times a year she does it. The rest of the time, she doesn't charge away from home. And 63% of the drivers in the UK, and sorry for people listening to this in Ireland and Australia and America, but 63% of drivers in the UK have access to off-street, off-parking at home. Now, I looked at that number and thought, that doesn't sound right. But of course, if you look at London, yes, there's lots of people live there, but they don't drive. So how does that, is infrastructure what I'm harping on about here?
Yeah.
Is that such a concern in the van world? I'm guessing charging away from the infrastructure, it's not, because you're charging in the depot. Okay, most of the time. Are people really charging away from the depot that often?
It is our biggest problem.
It is. Okay.
And it is our biggest problem for 2 reasons. First of all, because many businesses over the years have migrated away from depots.
Okay.
So there are certain businesses that have depots. I mean, so if you're in Network Rail, for instance, a huge, great big, and Royal Mail, and other businesses like that, which are back to base, and the vehicle is just a tool, and it doesn't go home. There's no overnight call outs and all that sort of stuff. Then it's likely to be depot based. But that
It's rarer.
is not the majority. And so a lot of the vehicles are going home, and also depot, because we're talking multiples of, it's not 1 or 2 or 5 or 10, it's 20 or 50 or 100 at a time. I mean, I'm going later on this year to a depot which has 600 vehicles in South London for DPD. And I'm going to see the solar on the roofs, the batteries that they've got, the charging infrastructure. It has cost a fortune to really put that in. Now, I'm not saying that to put people off from doing it, but what I'm saying is that there are challenges that perhaps aren't being seen and do need help from government, from an understanding from the people around, and that other solutions are having to be thought of. Sharing of infrastructure, so people that don't necessarily have the ability to park at a depot or do something like that, they share somebody else's that does. So the statistic is certainly less than 20% of van drivers are able to charge at home, and even some of those wouldn't, because the family car. So think about insurance. Is your car parked on your drive overnight? Oh yes, tick. And then
Are you going to park a van on the driveway?
Are you going to
No.
and kick the family car off? No, you're not. And also weight. So some of these vans are heavier. So there's the 4.25 ton derogation, which let's come on to that if we want to. But the vehicles are heavier, and drives are not necessarily built to take that weight. And also the size, it blots out the sun and all of that sort of stuff. So there are challenges with charging at home. So not to put people off, but the reality is that vans potentially could have to deal with public infrastructure almost more often than the private car. And because it's productivity, this costs a business money. So, when you think about what's a van worth to a business, well, if I asked, the audience, in your comments, tell me what you would attribute in terms of revenue for your van. Well, some of the big corporates will put in 500, 750, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. I've heard all of those numbers from different fleets. That's how much their vehicle is worth for one day.
Yeah.
And you lose that time. And if you charge your vehicle in working time three times a week, which is not uncommon because they're doing sort of
Yep.
50 to 80 miles a day, and it's you're having to charge 2 or 3 times a week, you could lose upwards of 18 days a year, and that could cost you
Up to,
18, 20, times it by whatever that
yeah,
number is.
numbers.
Lots of thousands of pounds in productivity. And productivity is the only reason you have a van,
Yes. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
solve issues around productivity, to carry goods, to sell stuff, to repair stuff, to deliver stuff, whatever it might be. So it's really, really important that we get productivity right. And so charging overnight or charging when the vehicle's stationary is the best time to do it, but you can't always do that. So there are challenges around that. This is an area we have to solve in order to be fully successful. We can still be successful with the numbers that we've got at the minute, but we do need to make sure that businesses are able to resolve that. And we need the support of the government. We need
Are
a
they doing enough?
collaborative approach.
Is government doing enough, or are they almost forgotten in the EV policy?
So I, as you might guess, I get quite passionate about vans. So I have doorstepped Lillian Greenwood, who's the Minister for the Future of Roads. I have spoken to Richard Bruce, who is the head of the Department for Transport. I do speak to anybody that will listen that has any kind of role in authority about the importance of vans and how it needs a dedicated approach. So if you're the British Vehicle Rental and Leasing Association, if you're the Association of Fleet Professionals, if you're the SMMT, the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, no matter who you are, I will tell you that vans need their own plan. They need a specific focus. They cannot afford to give up the support that is there for them at the moment, but we also need incentives for small businesses around tax, around charging, and the charging grants are still there for businesses, £350 per socket. So you can get that grant very easily, actually, and then you give it to an approved supplier, and you will get up to £14,000 given back to you by government to deploy charging in your businesses. So, and again, this is not widely known, but that's still available for businesses. For how long, we don't know, but this is what we need to be promoting and talking about and enabling, so that people can get charging in the right place and get the vehicles sorted. But we need a plan for vans, and that's why the EV Cafe, the Association for Fleet Professionals, the BVRLA, the British Vehicle Rental Leasing Association, Logistics UK, and the REA all got together and presented a plan to government that said, look, this is what we need, and this is why we need it, and this is how you can do it. So they are currently considering that. And
are they listening? Are they listening?
I think so. So I heard Lillian Greenwood recently, who's so she's the Minister for the Future of Roads. In her early speeches, she never singled out vans. She now very clearly singles out vans. And I'm not going to take all the credit for that, but I am taking some of it, because we've flagged that importance time and time and time again to her. And I believe she's listening. We need action, but there's 1.8 billion on the table, apparently, for electrification. And some of that will go to help the world of vans. But let's see.
So I want to talk about the first 90 days, which is a shameless plug for our first 90-day training program that people always talk about. Okay, but I'm going to do it slightly different now. We talk about the first 90-day program as we often say people learn the skills for the rest of their career, good and bad, that last with them for the rest of their life. But I want to flip it around this time. What about you're consulting with a company? They're deciding to go EV. They've looked at the numbers. The accountant's gone all over it. They've got 350 per charging point. They can charge from home or the depot or whatever. What are some of the common pitfalls or misconceptions that they should consider in the first 90 days when they transit to an EV fleet?
Yeah. So first of all, get the charging in place. And you mentioned we've considered the charging. Get it ready. Don't wait to order the vehicles to get the charging moving. So once you know you've made that decision, get the charging in place and educate everybody that is in that mix. We talked about them earlier. The beloved driver, We need them early doors. We need flag wavers. You need champions, people that will support it in sort of fleets of more than sort of 5 or 10. The smaller fleets, you just want every driver to experience it and get bums on seats, get them involved in the decision-making process. That I think is probably the single biggest mistake, is not engaging the drivers. And we have touched on that already. So that would be the first thing, and then get the charging right. And then also think about payment processes, because what we're having to do is pay for stuff that we haven't paid for before. So if you're paying for somebody's home charging, how do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you know how much energy has gone into the van?
Yep.
Yeah. Not to,
Air
charge
conditioning.
heat the swimming pool or the air conditioning or whatever.
What sort of place do your van drivers live in?
I tell you.
Heat the swimming pool, air conditioned cinema rooms.
Exactly, all of that. So understand what's out there to support, and get software, think about telematics, monitor. And for that first 90 days, really, that is really important, because if they get into a habit of utilizing all this power early doors and draining the battery, you'll find that people come unstuck. The other thing that is also worth doing is address your peak times. So what is your toughest day look like? Well, it's probably mid-December or mid-January. It's you've been called out. It's late at night.
It's cold.
It's cold in particular. And you've got a lot of weight in the back, because you've got to take this big part, whatever that looks like, to wherever you need to go. And you need to test it in your toughest environment, so that you understand what a bad day could look like. Because good days, we'll take 98% of the time. Good days, easy peasy. But actually, let's look at the bad day. Let's address that. Let's all understand it in the room, and let's make a pragmatic decision. Will we live with that bad day once in a while, and press through, rather than chuck the baby out with the bathwater? Yeah.
But again, it's winning hearts and minds of the driver. I've got to say, it's. I hope my father-in-law never listens to this, but this is 2025, and it's of the generation that, let me tell you, electric won't work. We'll be back to there. It's. He's not unique there. There's lots of people still think that, oh, you wouldn't park that in your garage, it's going to catch fire. Let me tell you, it'll be all stopped. I can remember when the government wanted us to go diesel. They promoted us go diesel then.
That old chestnut. Yeah.
But the van driver, I don't want to put them in that category, but there must be lots of people like my father-in-law there, that still believe that internal combustion engines is what have always been there. So you really have to win the hearts and minds. And again, something I listened from you is the Canoe, if I'm pronouncing that right, blew your mind. Is it blowing the drivers' minds of what these pickups can do, these vans?
So do you know what? Canoe was a great little business, a great van actually, but sadly didn't make it through. Has gone bust. But
blew your mind at the time.
But blew my mind at the time, and I think that's the thing. We have got such an opportunity. Look, let me cast your mind back to the early 1900s, and Simon, you and I weren't there, but a decision was made back in the early 1900s, because we had a choice. We had a choice between electric as a method of propulsion. We had steam as a method of propulsion, and we had oil as a method of propulsion, or petrol. And of course, we chose petrol, but we didn't have the benefit of all the knowledge we have now. And so we made a choice back then, and we chose petrol, and we ended up with gears and all of these kinds of things. But electric was already proven back then as being the most efficient.
Am I right in saying that Porsche, to find a first electric vehicle, was actually a van? I might have that completely wrong, but I've read it somewhere. I've made it up in my mind, but it was an electric vehicle that was not a van, but it was a flat-bedded vehicle to get things around. Is that right?
I don't know is the truth, but
someone will tell me how wrong I've got that.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's now gospel. Sounds great.
It's been said on the Selling the Motor Trade podcast, so it was true.
Simon said it. It's true. But no, I don't know. But the reality is that as we get into the electric world, I think the technology is going to get lots better. But there is, of course, the naysayers. There is, of course, resistance, and we know that. But I think day by day, I mean, I listened to a YouTube video this morning, actually, that was some guy slating election, and I listen to them from time to time, right, just to
Yeah.
kind of
Get the other
hear
side. Yeah.
exactly. And
Yep.
and he, do you know what? He made some points that were relevant that I need to address in one form or another. Now, he's not
Yeah.
right. It is the future, and technology has to go to zero emission for a variety of
Mhm.
reasons, and not to get on a soapbox right now, but air quality,
Mhm.
health related, and the climate. I mean, we can all reflect on the massive changes that we've experienced in weather
Agreed.
across the world. And then what we perhaps mightn't know quite so much is that local air quality and how that affects health issues in us
Mhm.
as humans. 36,000 people a year are dying as a result of air quality related health issues. We're spending billions on keeping people alive with air quality related health issues. We can make a difference with air quality, and
Mhm.
it sounds very, very preachy and a little bit tree huggerish, but it's there is an element of doing the right thing here.
Mhm.
So we're going to appeal to some people's moral compass, but not everybody's.
But
And there's a lot of petrol.
the
Yeah,
accountant that says the balance sheet, yes, we want to look after people if it doesn't cost us.
yeah, and at local level, small
Mm.
businesses like ours, Simon,
We
we
can, mate.
can't afford to just blow the budget on doing something nice.
But we
But
can make the decision that we want to
yes,
go green. We can
yeah,
do that.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And but also it does have to stack up, but we can
Yeah.
recognize that it does stack up because we're in control of our own budgets.
Yeah.
So, but when you've got this lack of control, there is this need to engage with the drivers to help them understand the journey. And we come back to mindset. There's a great phrase: if you think you can, or you
Mm.
think you can. I can't believe you've never used this in a training room. If you think you can, or you think you
Mr.
can't, you're
Henry
probably
Ford.
right. Indeed,
Yes, sir.
indeed, Mr. Henry Ford. And we need to, he said, but when he created the Model T, he said that if we ask the public what they
Mhm.
want, they'll tell us we want a faster horse,
So true.
and we don't need to ask the public what they want. We've got to give them something that does a job for them, meets a need, and also actually will wow them. Um, but
And this
for how?
podcaster who was slating the electric vehicles, sorry, I
Hmm,
took you off track there.
yeah,
What
yeah,
was
that's
it?
fine.
What was his point that he was having a go about them?
Well, he was just saying that we're being forced
Ah,
into
forced. Yeah.
this change. The vehicles are not fit for purpose,
Mm.
and I would say here today they're not fit for every purpose.
Mm.
There you go. They're not fit for every purpose today.
Currently.
But look over the hill, just see beyond the horizon a little bit. You've got all of the major manufacturers coming with ground up electric vehicles that will be night and day different. We've heard about the solid state battery, which will charge in no time at all. We already know in China the speed of charging can be as little as 5 minutes for 200 kilometers. We know this.
Mm.
And we know that there are already vehicles out there in the car world with 450 miles range, and this will ebb into the van world. And we'll soon be seeing vans that have 300 miles range and can charge 10 to 80% in about 18 to 20 minutes. I can do that with my car today with 800-volt technology, and I'm getting into the technicalities, but
Mm.
the technology is here and ready already to be able to meet some of the needs. The world that we live in means that cars get it first
Mm.
because that's where all the emotional stuff is and that's where the money is spent. But it will get into the vans because it's imperative it does.
Yeah.
It has to get there. But then there's also the lots of plus points. So there's a new Chinese van, and you can do it in the Ford. You'll be able to do it in the Renault very shortly. But you can plug in your tools. So if you've got a power saw that you need to chop up, you're a chippy and you're going to be chopping some wood, or you're a plumber and you need to do some welding, or all of these things you can
It's
do
not
now
your
from the
Honda
back of the van.
generator anymore that you have to
No.
carry around with you.
And
It's
also, do you know what the emissions are like on those generators, those
I don't,
diesel generators? They're horrendous
must be. Yeah.
to work around. And now all you need to do is just plug it in and go and do your job. you know,
Yeah.
and it makes so much sense. There's so many pluses on the vehicles that are coming that people, you know, come back to
Paul,
that phrase that you love, no brainer. It will be
yeah.
soon.
But
Go
Paul,
on.
I got to say, your enthusiasm, your passion for an electric tin box is just it's absolutely it's so evident there. Anyone listening to this, watching this, it is just
Mm.
there. So listen, you got what, 30 years in the motor trade, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I believe Green Fleet's the top 100 most influential individuals in the sustainable transport. Well done, sir. Okay.
Mm.
What moments in your career are you most proud of?
Oh, what a good question. What a good question. Well, do you know what? Actually, that Green Fleet moment, one of those. So I was also given an award as a Green Fleet champion,
Mhm.
and there was a room full of people, 300 odd people, and as I came, and now I I was late, but anyway, I came into the room and people were, you know, were whistling and cheering and shouting and up I went and it was that was a special moment. I will say that. Because I think at the end of the day, we want to know that we're valued and we want to know that we're making a difference. And you know, and I see these, you know, I've been on two lists recently. The first list was hilarious because it was the top 10 people in sustainability in the world. Um, and I found my way onto that list. So I was scrolling down the list, and there was somebody I'd never heard of, another person I'd never heard of, and I was scrolling down. And then there was a guy I'd heard of, a guy called Roger Atkins, who's actually done quite a lot in commercial vehicles. We used to work for Modec back in the early years, but he's very, very well known in the electric world. Loads and loads of followers on LinkedIn in particular. And then I was scrolling down just to see because I had no idea that I was on this list. I was the next person along. I was number 5. I'm like, hello, who's written this list? And anyway, I carried on. Elon Musk was number 1.
Yeah.
There was Mary Barra, who's the CEO of GM number 2, and there was a couple of other people ahead of me. And I'm just like, whoever writes these lists, there's either AI and it's really clever, and you know, I got that list, and I'm the only one that saw me at number 5. You
I'm
know,
not
kind
a
of like those golf magazines that you get given, you know, when you go on a golf day and you're
yeah,
you're there on the front of the magazine, you know. But yeah, so I mean that actually was quite a moment. But I guess the other thing is to have people's recognition that we're making a difference in the world of vans, and you know, when MPs are changing what they're saying, and when you know, organizations are saying, can you come and do that van thing for us?
mm,
Can you build this event? Can you build this feature within a thing? When we were at the commercial vehicle show earlier this year as the EV Cafe, and we had a brilliant time. It was a really, really good thing. Those are the things that, you know, give me, just like any other human being, a bit of validation to say, you're doing a good job and we value it.
mm,
It's as simple as that. I want to be valued just like you, just like everybody listening on this podcast. And it isn't always about money, and it
no.
often isn't about money. It's actually a pat on the back and
Mm.
somebody connecting with you and saying, you're doing a great job. Thanks very much.
Where,
That'll
where,
do for me every time.
where does this passion come from? Were there any mentors or role models in your career that you really
Mm,
looked up that really influenced your approach to business and leadership, or guided and inspired you through your career?
another great question. So my whole career is down to wonderful people. Um, my first sales manager was a guy called Nick Anthony. We got to know each other very well. He sacked me because we fell out, and he called me up at lunchtime. He'd sacked me in the morning, and I'd gone home. So I put it in writing and went home. And then he phoned me up at lunchtime and said, "Get back here, you little bastard! You're not having the old day off." Um, and he said, "And bring a sandwich with you. I'm starving." Anyway, so so I guess, you know, that expression of, he was a passionate guy, right? But he taught me a little bit about sales. I am passionate. I suppose that bit is natural. Uh, I have other great people all through my career. So, Nick, this guy, Peter Golding, who really encouraged me. Got a lady called Lisa McGowan, who was a great mentor of mine in LeasePlan. A guy called Mark Lovett, who gave me the opportunity to be in LeasePlan. Um, just lots and lots of really, really good people. And, listen, I have no qualifications. I started out as a cleaner. I didn't imagine I would ever be any more than a cleaner.
I started
So,
washing cars for a living, so I have nothing against that at all.
me
What a
and you.
great place to start.
That's
Great
it.
place. Yeah.
But it's that attention to detail, that care, that the
Mm.
vehicle looks right.
Yeah.
It look so. Whenever the cleaners would present me with a BMW that was ready for sale, I would be round that thing looking for any smear or any drip or
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff, because attention to detail really mattered in that presentation of the vehicle. And so, I'm the same with vans. So if we've got a van on the stand, if I'm at an exhibition, and I see a streak on the window, I'm getting that off, and
Yep. I
you
know your
want.
fleet, but retail's in the detail. It is
There
just,
you
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and it absolutely is. And I've been in retail and understand that world, and I think if you carry that over to what you do in the fleet world, then it's valued every time. You don't hit all the buttons, but it's the passion comes from being part of a great community, that you're delivering something really cool. I know it doesn't sound cool. Vans don't sound cool, but listen, you're putting something in somebody's hand that can deliver revenue, that
Yeah.
can generate. The emergency services use it, parcels use it. You repair boiler repairers, roadside assistants. I mean, so many things that are done by vans, and
Yeah.
what's not to get passionate about?
Hey, listen, you're leading the charge. No, no pun intended there. Okay, in a new industry, not just EV, but EV vans, and that's the niche there.
Mhm.
How do you stay at the cutting edge? What do you do for
Mm.
yourself? What are your routines and habits to what training do you do? What do you do to make sure that you are right at the forefront?
Well, do you know what I love is being able to go into a room of people that are, well, whether they're eager to learn or not, it
Mm.
sort of doesn't matter really. It's nice if they're eager to learn. But I speak at a number of events. I deliver training myself, for dealer groups, for rental companies, for finance companies that are looking to sell. Um, so whenever I do that, I'm always updating my knowledge. But one thing I learned way back when, was always be looking at the horizon, see what is coming over. Because if we just look at what's here today, we're not going to be able to kind of really grasp how we move forward. Whenever I'm doing some training, I'm always saying, look with the eyes of innovation. Don't look with, this blinkered view of what we have here today. Think about how solar is going to change things, and how batteries outside of the vehicles as well
Mm.
as inside of the vehicles are going to help.
Yeah.
The vehicles themselves are going to change. We're going to be looking at, you mentioned it yourself, robo taxis and
Mm.
autonomous vehicles. There's already autonomous vans on the road here in the UK, um, and all around the world. We are seeing so much go on, and that excites me. So I just kind of get into it. And if somebody says, "Oh, did you hear about that?" Oh, I'm googling it before they've got to the end of the sentence, because somebody said to me, they came back from China and they said, "There's so much going on in China.
Mm.
Go and see it." And I am desperate. If anybody out there wants to take me, I'm desperate to go to China and see one of the big shows. Shanghai
Yeah.
Automotive, or the Beijing shows, or whatever, because there's so much going on, and that really is the cool stuff, right?
Yep.
Vans are vans, and they're cool. They're, big tin boxes, but there is so much cool stuff going on, and so it's that natural desire to learn that I think that, and then the opportunities to deliver that, because I get very excited about delivering the content to people that, whether they like it or not, I want them to know it, and hopefully some of them go, "Oh yes, please, that's great."
Looking through the horizon, then, as you said, if we go to 2030, 35,
Mm.
And I don't want to get too political here, unless you want to, of course, but you've got Mr. Musk and the president seem to have fallen out in a big way. We're recording this in July 2025, so
Yeah,
we don't know what's going to happen. He may be deported to South Africa by the time this comes out. Mr. Trump loved electric vehicles. He bought one and then now hates them and tends to drill, baby, drill. I just want you to take yourself to 2035. Have we made it? What does the van world look like? Is it all EV? Are we going back to diesel? What? And
Okay,
also, more importantly, talking about this future, is the van driver still behind the wheel of that car 2035?
So let me ask
Or
you. Let me ask you a question if I can. What's your favorite sport?
See, I like Formula One. I don't know if I can call it a sport, but I do like Formula One. You're
Okay.
not going to go with me on that.
No,
Okay.
I'm kind of going to go with you. I mean,
Okay.
but what's your favorite sport to have played or play?
Okay. So growing up, I played hockey, field hockey.
Okay,
Okay.
so field
But
hockey. Did you ever step on the field not wanting to win?
not a once.
Not a
Okay.
once. Absolutely. So as I stand here today, what does winning look like?
Yeah.
Winning looks like starting 2035 selling only electric vehicles. That's across these cars, vans, and trucks up to 26 tons. So as I sit here today, that's our goal. And I say our goal, the goal of the industry, because I recognize both the science-based targets. So this is not just government, and it doesn't matter which government is in. It's science. It's science and it's climate. We might only be a small bit of the big pie, but if we don't win, then somebody else has got to pick up the slack. Well, let's go out and win. I think the more speculative element to this is how many of those vans will be driving themselves and how many of them will be being driven. I think of course, the vast majority will still be being driven. We're just over 5 million vans on the road today. They represent about 12% of the total fleet. And, we've probably got maybe 80, maybe nearly 90,000 electric vans on the road here today in the UK. Represents probably just a couple of percent of the total fleet size. It will probably represent, I don't know, maybe a 10 or 15, maybe 20, or maybe even 30% of the total pot. But I think the autonomous element vehicles will be quite low. And I think even certainly before 2030, we will see human intervention or human overseeing of that for some time. But maybe by the time we get to 2035, because it's a legislative issue, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a
Yes, it
safety
is.
thing.
Yeah.
Because I think the technology
when
is
they go
there.
wrong, who gets sued? Is it the
Yeah,
car or the person? I think that's a real battle someone needs to work out.
absolutely. And the other element of it is that if we make the assumption that because of human interaction, they will eventually kill someone, we then will blame technology rather than and so somebody said it this way, we'll accept 1,000 deaths today with human drivers behind the road, but we won't accept, or behind the wheel, sorry, but we won't accept 100 dying at the hands of an autonomous vehicle. So it's a very strange mix. We're actually going to save
A lot of
900
lives.
people,
Yep.
but we will be that much more annoyed about the 100 deaths that have been caused, in effect, by technology.
But
So I
again,
think
cutting you off there, it's such a this could be a podcast in itself. But if you are in a autonomous Google, Apple, robo taxis, whoever's developing there,
Waymo,
and there's going to be an accident. Little girl runs across the road. Okay, we have a choice now. The car runs off the road and kills the driver, or kills the little girl. That's a decision. That do we allow AI to make that? What's the probabilities? How do you explain to the parents of either the driver or the little girl? I don't know where to begin on that question. It is a tough,
It's a
tough.
moral maze, isn't it?
It absolutely is. But exactly what you said there. At some point, that will happen. Things
Yeah.
will break. Something will go wrong, and
Mm.
who gets sued there? My
Yeah,
husband bought a car, and it decided to drive off the side of the road and kill my husband because this little girl ran across the road because their parents didn't hold onto her hand.
Yes.
I,
Yeah.
that's a tough one. I think it needs to be worked out. I don't know how. Um,
Yeah, me either.
write your answers in too.
Yeah.
Selling in the motor trade. Okay.
Messages on a postcard, please, because we ain't got a clue.
But having said that, if you want to scare yourself, listen to some of the podcasts out there on where AI is going and the likes of Tesla, the amount of data they have with 8 cameras over the cars all the time and making the decisions, and they know what decisions and what these things can do. It's going to be interesting.
Listening to some podcasts on AI, will we all be here? Because
you've been listening to some of the same ones that I have.
AI could quite happily make the decision that these humans seem to be a bit incompetent and a bit unhelpful. They tend to fight a lot. Let's just kill them all, and then we don't have to worry about them.
It's now my time to say, sorry, I'm not actually here because this is Friday afternoon. I'm in the pub at the moment. This is just my AI at the moment, the avatar that's asking the questions.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yes. Listen, let's finish up with this before we go off the track too much there. A magic wand time. Now I'm in fantasy. You've got a magic wand time now.
Yeah.
If you could wave this magic wand and change one thing overnight in the motor trade to accelerate this EV transition in the van world, what would you wish for?
Gosh, it's very funny because Simon, as you know, we have a podcast and we offer a magic wand also at the end of our podcast.
Oh,
and if I had it with me, for the record, everybody, I'm in Bournemouth, not at home in Bedford. If I was at home, I'd be waving my own magic wand, but I'm not. But gosh. I think ultimately it has to come down to this mindset piece. I would wish for a dose of optimism on the people addressing this technology for the first time. I would want people to come and listen. It might not work for everybody, and I concede that today. It won't work for everybody, but I'd like people to be able to just approach everything with a positive mindset, a thing of, if you think it can, you think it can't, because then we've got an opportunity to make informed, pragmatic, sensible decisions for the good of, for the good of everything, for the good of ourselves, for the good of our businesses, for the good of air quality, for the good of the climate, for the good of humanity. That's what I would wish for, a good dose of optimism and open-mindedness.
Well, I've loved this. How do people get hold of you? Is it through LinkedIn? What's the easiest way for people to reach out to you?
Easiest is always LinkedIn. So I do a bit on Instagram. Please do, follow me on LinkedIn, and I like to connect so that we can exchange emails and different things like that. I also got my YouTube channel, which is at Electric Van Man. You can find me on Instagram on Electric Van Geek. And yeah, but by all means, listen, I can I can help you, or I can just wax eloquent about vans at you for a while. Happy to answer any questions, happy to give a recommendation of what van would do the job for me. But the best van is the van that does the job for you. So yes, you can find me on all of those places.
Your passion is infectious. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Simon, it's been a joy. Thank you.
Thank you. That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, simcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn. Thank you.